G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Let's go. I just caught my girlfriend having sex with my dad. So to start, I, male 22, have been with my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend Kate, fake name, female 21, for just shy of 3 years. Our relationship throughout the 3 years has been amazing. She had always been kind and supportive and very open and honest with me. We had dates often, our love-making life was great, we had very few arguments, but when we did get into a disagreement, we managed to communicate and come to an understanding before long. I believed our relationship to be healthy and loving, but apparently I was wrong. On to the story. About a week ago, I had started to notice that Kate was becoming very touchy about me being on or around her phone. This was odd to me because not only had she always let me use her phone to make calls if mine was flat or I didn't have immediate access to mine, but she had also downloaded games for me to play on her phone so she could distract me when she wanted to watch her shows. Kate began snapping at me for asking to borrow her phone or snatching it out of my hand if I was so much as moving it away from the edge of the counter so that it wouldn't fall. And whenever I questioned her behavior, she just brushed it off and explained she was just in a bad mood. Her constant dismissal of my noticeable confusion began to annoy me, so I asked her if she was hiding anything from me, which led to an argument about her saying that I was accusing her of infidelity and not trusting her, and began trying to get physical with me in case I shut the argument down, and I told her to sleep in the guest bedroom. She was very angry about it, but I told her that we would talk about it in the morning. When we did talk about it, she apologized for her behavior and gave me her phone. I told her I trusted her and I didn't need to go through it, and to be frank, I did trust her, and I believed her outburst to be due to the ongoing stress at work, which was clearly stupid of me. The next day I noticed she had gotten a missed call from my father. I had never known my father to like Kate, or even to have contact at that. In fact, I was convinced they both disliked each other. At any and every family event, they would often argue or make snarky remarks at one another until we would have to leave due to the tense atmosphere that they had created. So I decided to ask Kate why my father had called her. She physically froze and mumbled an excuse about it being my birthday soon and he had planned something. But my father and I were never very close, so I didn't understand why he would. But I played it off and decided to go about my day. Then the following night, I had texted her explaining that I had a late shift and I would be back at around 10 p.m. latest, which I did. We ended up being dismissed early due to an incident regarding our manager and a few staff, and so I was heading home by 7 p.m. I tried calling her, but she had her phone off, so I assumed that it had gone flat or she had turned it off, which she does often at home. When I made it home, I noticed my father's car 2 houses down from ours, and so I tried calling him, but his phone was also turned off, which I found odd because my mother likes his phone to be on so that she can call him when she needs him, as she's handicapped. I assumed my mother was with him, so I opened the door quietly to surprise her as I haven't seen her in a while, and I was met with the sight of my girlfriend bent over the kitchen counter with my father behind her. They both froze and started profusely yelling and telling me that it wasn't what it looked like and that they could explain. But I shut and locked the door from the outside with a deadbolt and made my way to a friend's house. Since then, they have both been blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me not to say anything to anyone. And quite frankly, I'm just disgusted. Disgusted in my father, who is turning 60 next month and has my mother to take care of, and disgusted in Kate, who was getting railed by my father for who knows how long. I honestly just want to throw up and set both of them on fire, but I'm most worried about how my mother will take this situation, as she is very dependent on my father and adores him. How should I go about this? I don't need closure or to confront them. I don't want to know how their gross relationship started or how long it's been going on for. I just need advice on how to approach the situation without causing a bigger mess than there already is. Any advice is welcome, and thank you for reading. In the comments, not that you need any explanation, I am very curious to know what they intended it to look like. Whatever excuse they give is surely going to be made up. They would look really silly to themselves about the excuse that they make up. I would rather go on thinking that, oh, your dad stopped over to show me a few new positions we could try out. or that it was an accident and that Dad came over to make amends since you both were heading towards a committed relationship. And by accident, as they made amends, his zipper became undone and ended up stabbing her from behind, or that he just came over to give her his blessing. Whatever the case is, I am sorry that you are going through this. Remember, it is not your fault. It takes two to tango, and both of them are equally to blame. You don't deserve this. OP replies, I love this. Gave me a good laugh about it. Thank you for your support. I just can't comprehend how these things can happen. What does Kate get from your 60-year-old father that you, a younger version of him, can't provide? I tend to process things with logical thinking, and I just can't understand how this could have happened. Does she have financial issues, or is there any reason for her to do this to you? And now on to the update. As per someone's advice, I asked my mother to lunch, and after some small talk, I informed her of the situation. She was understandably upset and in denial about the situation, as my father had spoken to her prior about me still holding a grudge. A story for another time, and that I would be likely to come up with a lie to turn her against him for revenge. But after showing her the messages that they had sent afterward, she was distraught and visibly angry about the ordeal. I then asked her if she would still be comfortable with me sending an email to our relevant family members and Kate's parents and siblings, and while she was a little reluctant about it, she had said that she didn't want the backlash from his family for leaving him. I then did just that. I sent an email explaining the situation, that my mother and I would be going no contact with both Kate and my father, and low contact with anyone who gave either of us any grief for our decision. Now she is staying with her older sister, while I'm with a close mate until we can figure out a stable living situation for us both. After the email was sent, there was radio silence for a day or two before both my mother and I were bombarded with a mix of messages that I'll just summarize in small paragraphs. Kate's parents were evidently enraged that I accused their daughter of such a thing, and that they would be suing me for defamation on their daughter's behalf. I then took the liberty of sending them the screenshots from both Kate's and my father's messages, and they left me on scene for a couple of days before replying to me and informing me that while they wouldn't sue me, they would appreciate if I kept the situation under wraps. My father was the first to message my mother, attempting to convince her that I staged the messages and that I was being petty and lying. And when she wouldn't believe him, he accused her of cheating on him and trying to find a way out of their marriage, which evidently isn't possible for my mother, as she has trouble getting from place to place on her own. He then apologized and told her that he was just frustrated and asked to see her, and when she declined, he again accused her of cheating and staying with her lover, all the while abandoning him. My maternal grandparents and paternal grandparents had very different messages, and not in the way that I thought they would. My paternal grandparents apologized for his behavior and told my mother that if she needed support in the future, they were available, and informed her they would be disowning and going no contact with my father. My maternal grandparents, however, despite being the people that raised her, told her that due to her injury and not being able to fulfill her husband's needs, it was only right of him to look elsewhere for fulfillment, and while they understood that it was wrong because it was my partner, Kate was available for him, and my mother should forgive him and move on. They also made a point to state that my mother needs my father more than he needs her. Kate's two older sisters reached out and thanked me for telling them, and informed us that if we, my mother and I, needed any assistance in the future in regards to my mother's health, as one is an elderly caretaker and the other is a physiotherapist, that they are willing to help. These aren't all the messages, but they are the relevant ones. I'll make a part 2 so this post doesn't get too long. Part 2, continuation of my previous update. My mother and I gave ourselves a few days to get through all the messages and phone calls, and blocked my maternal grandparents as well as my father. My mother didn't already have him blocked. I contacted my landlord and real estate agent and informed them briefly of the situation, and I was no longer living on the premises and that I would like to have my name taken off the lease. Luckily, our lease was being renewed in that coming week, and the next day they contacted Kate to inform her that I had taken my name off the lease for the following month, and in the next week, if she was unable to take on my portion of the rent, she would have 3 months to vacate the property. I don't know how she reacted, but I could tell that it wasn't overly ecstatic, as her parents contacted me and asked if, despite everything, I would be willing to pay for her rent just for this month because she doesn't have the money for it at the moment. Obviously, I declined and told them that I no longer want anything to do with her anymore. They then informed me that she was pregnant with my child and needed assistance from the father of her baby, and that this would be a last goodbye. I then laughed and told them I most definitely was not the father of that baby if she was pregnant, and if she needed assistance from her baby daddy to contact my father. Then I hung up and blocked them. On a brighter note, my mother and I have just put a down payment on a house together and are looking into hiring a caregiver to help my mother for when I have to work or trips out of state. My father has attempted to call both of us from multiple phone numbers and had multiple family members try to persuade my mother into meeting up with him to chat. And as a result, my mother and I have gotten new phone numbers to avoid his mess. I also happened to hear from a mate that Kate is trying to hire a lawyer so that she can get child support money from me, but apparently because she has no proof that I'm the father and refuses to take a DNA test to the baby, she hasn't had any luck. Edit 1, I forgot to mention it above as I didn't see it as important when writing this, but Kate is apparently 5 weeks pregnant. We haven't been intimate for just under 2 months, so the baby is unlikely to be mine. If it is, I'll pay child support, but I want proof before I pay her money for a baby that may or may not be mine. Edit 2, just to clarify, Kate and I weren't having issues during the time that we weren't intimate. I was too tired to initiate due to work commitments, and at the time, I assumed that she was as well, but it's likely that her needs were met by either my father or other parties. And edit 3, something else that I forgot to mention, yes, I did get a test for STIs and UTIs and any sorts of infections that I may not be aware of, and all tests came back negative, so I'm in the clear in that space. In the comments, so many sucky people in this story. But I think the dad is worse than all the rest of them put together. He's betrayed his wife and his son in the worst possible way, and then he has the gall to harass his ex-wife trying to get back with her. Dad is definitely number 1 villain, Kate is number 2 villain, and Mum's parents are actually probably tied for number 2 villain. Horrible people. Lamau? God damn, this is horrible. Dude's about to have a baby brother. Damn, that's a situation. Waiting for the update in 5 years when OP asks, am I the a-hole for not going to my half-brother's birthday party? Or in 10 years when he asks, am I the a-hole for telling my half-brother why I don't talk to our dad? And in 15 years, am I the a-hole for not taking my half-brother in because my dad just passed away and his mother had taken off a few years back? My uncle was in a similar situation. His wife ended up leaving him for his dad, and they took the kids too. My uncle shot himself not long after. I've got no sympathy for those people. The audacity of this woman. She wants him to pay child support but won't do a DNA test? I would have a canned response to any flying monkeys that come by. I would be more than happy to fulfill my obligations as a child's dad, but only after paternity has been proven, since girlfriend has been screwing my dad, my goddamn dad, for months. I'm getting that she got it from her parents. I know you're moving out because she cheated on you and with your dad and imploded your personal life and your mum's, but could you pretty please cough up a few $100s to give to her as a final goodbye? I would have just laughed and hung up. They can help that little beast of a woman out if she's in such a hard position of her own making. Our next post is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to give up my dog for my dad's fiancée and her son? I'm really upset about this right now. I'm 17 female, my parents divorced when I was 12. It was really rough. They pretty much hate each other and still have trouble doing anything together where I'm concerned. I try not to talk about them to each other and just keep things separate. All the fighting and chaos was hard on me and was affecting my mood and schoolwork when it was all going down. So my dad felt bad and let me have a dog to help me feel better. Someone nearby had a Malamute puppies, so I picked out one and his name is Tycho, or Tycho, and he is my best friend. Even on the weeks that I'm with my mum, I stop by after school every day to take him to the dog park to play and get his cuddles in. I love this dog. My dad started dating Melanie a few years ago. I don't really connect with her, we're just really different, and she's way too touchy. But she makes my dad happy, so whatever. Her son Ben, 9 male, is autistic and needs a lot of accommodations. He gets really upset and has meltdowns when things change or are done differently. He's also really scared of Tycho, even though as far as I know, Tycho has never done anything to scare him. He's a really laid-back and well-behaved dog. Dad and Melanie recently got engaged, and they want to go ahead and move her and Ben in so that they can get rid of their apartment and save money. My dad told me about it and said that since Ben is afraid of Tycho and needs a stable environment at home, Tycho is going to have to go somewhere else. My mum's townhouse doesn't even have room for him, and my grandparents aren't in good enough health to look after a big dog, so we would have to rehome him. I admit that I didn't take it very well, and we had a big fight. I told him that no way I was going to give up my dog, and I'm going to college next year anyway, so they can put off the move until the spring when I can find a place to take him with me. My dad says they need to do the move over the holidays, and Ben is more important than a dog. I told him if he gives away my dog, I'll never forgive him, and that he obviously thinks Ben is more important than me too. My dad is mad because I'm making this a choice between me and his fiancée, basically. Melanie is having second thoughts about the engagement since I don't want to live with them. My mum is mad at my dad, and they're fighting again, and I'm afraid to leave Tycho alone because he might not be there when I get back. My aunt says that I'm being childish, and my dad deserves to be happy. Am I the a-hole? In the comments, not the a-hole. Your dad shouldn't have given you a dog to take it away later. However, you also need to be prepared. It isn't easy to find a place to take a large dog. If your plan is to bring him with you, you need to be working and saving money. You will likely need to rent a house or a room in a house where they let you have him, and you have vet bills to cover, food, etc. Agree. This is sad, but OP should be prepared that it's going to be very, very difficult as a college student to find a place big enough for such a large dog. Yes, I have a cat, and people even struggle to find rentals with them. Unfortunately, Dad likely got the dog to keep them coming over, but didn't seem to be committed to keeping the dog. Not the a-hole. I usually side with parents, but rehoming your dog because he can't wait 6 months to move his girlfriend into the house seems like he is choosing his girlfriend over his child, and that is a huge no-no. Melanie's son does have a right to feel safe in his own home, but that does not include forcing you to get rid of your dog. That is just not a legitimate thought to have. Maybe Melanie should have second thoughts about your dad. I like this comment because there are so many good points to it. Why wasn't the dog and a compromise conversation happening before? Oh, there was a conversation between Melanie and OP's dad. It went, "You'll get rid of the dog, won't you?" And he says, "Yes, dear." Agreed. OP and her dog were living there first too. Also, a best friend pet can be really important for a teenager's and young adult's mental health, especially considering turbulent past. Since she said they're going to move out quite soon with the dog, the father has multiple options and compromises available, like blocking off a part of the house so the dog can't free roam in the whole house while OP is at school. Just postpone his girlfriend moving in until OP moves out, maybe building necessary structures, dog houses, fences, etc. in the backyard, and keep the dog in the yard during daytime until OP comes back from school and takes over dealing with the dog inside. Obviously only outside when it's not too hot or cold, and that fresh water and housing/kennel for shade is provided. Or something else, you know. Most things in life are compromisable. Well, only if parties involved want to compromise, not just bulldoze over everyone else. And now, onto the update. I talked to my mum and my grandparents after school. I brought Tycho to my mum's place this afternoon, and I'm going to take him to my grandparents tomorrow. I'm going to split time between them and my mum for a while, and my grandparents said that if I go to college nearby, that I can live with them while I study to make sure I don't lose my dog. So I'm going to look at maybe doing 2 years at a local college and then transferring to a university later. I haven't told my dad yet, but I will after I get Tycho settled tomorrow. I already went online and made sure that his chip information is up to date with all of my info and my mum's as backup. Pretty sure all hell is going to break loose, but honestly, I'd do almost anything to not lose my dog, including just not going to college right now, if that's what I have to do. He takes care of me, so I have to take care of him. Update 2. It's been a rough few days. My dad flipped his crap when I told him that I wasn't coming back to his place, and he and my mum are duking it out right now. My mum's lawyer asked me a bunch of questions and then said not to worry about it. Melanie called to find out what was going on, so I told her that if living with her and Ben means that I lose my dog, I'm just not going to live there anymore. And she tried to talk me out of it because my dad didn't want to lose me, but I told her that's just how it is. I think they're fighting now too. My grandparents said my dad is being totally unreasonable and he's not allowed to come onto their property. Gonna be a fun Christmas. I'm just gonna stay at my grandparents' to try and keep my head down until I go back to school. But Tycho seems to like it here. He has a lot more space to run around and still gets to sleep next to my bed, so he's happy at least. Final update. Okay, last update. So Melanie broke it off with my dad. My dad didn't talk to me for a while, but he finally asked to have lunch, so my grandpa went with me because he wanted to make sure that I was safe and my dad didn't yell at me. My dad apologized for trying to make me give up Tycho and still wants to come back home. I told him that I would come visit, but I'm still afraid that he'll take my dog. Living with my grandparents has also been really nice. It's quiet, they appreciate me helping out with the farm, and my grandma is teaching me how to cook. He wasn't happy, but he said he understood, and we worked out a plan for me to visit for dinner a few days on the weeks that used to be his weeks, and I'm dropping to see my mum most days on her weeks, but spending most of my time with my grandparents. I got a scholarship to the local branch of the state university, and it's only an hour in some away and has the degree program that I want. So I think I'm going to go there for at least the first 2 years. I'm going to talk to admissions about getting a waiver from living on campus since I'm helping my grandparents. Both my parents are going to chip in on an allowance for me and Tycho while I'm in school. My mum says my grandparents can relax more and are feeling better with me there. Also, they love Tycho being around now too, so it's the best option for everyone, and I'll be able to budget for vet visits and everything. My dad is still mad at my mum and Melanie, but he doesn't want me to miss out on college, and he seems to be more himself after the first week of visits. Thank you all for the advice. I am so relieved this has worked out. I have had hella anxiety over Christmas about all of this, but I get to keep Tycho. Things are mending with my dad, and I'm on track for college. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.